Okay, thank you. Chef Marshall O'Brien has been a proponent of smart eating for over 15 years. He and his team in the Chef Marshall O'Brien Group work with a broad spectrum of clients, reaching 200 school districts, 5,000 child care providers, city agencies such as fire, police, and public works, and numerous businesses and civic organizations, where the group's Smart Eating for Well-Being presentations are tremendously popular. You may have seen him on television. He regularly appears on Fox 9 in the Twin Cities, where he is a trusted voice for smart nutrition. Please welcome Chef Marshall O'Brien.
Thank you. You're kind of a tough crowd this morning. Uh-oh. Oh, you got to be kidding me. What's going on here? Okay. I think I have everything. Put the right socks on. It's all set. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for being patient and being part of this. It really is a privilege and a pleasure. I want to talk to you today about a secret gift for your child. Parents, and I am one of those people, you do so much for your kids. You keep them safe. You show them, and I'm going to probably cry because my kids and my wife are here. You keep them safe. You show them they're loved. You mentor their development. Your every action paves the way to make their way in life as easy as possible. Yet there's one gift that oftentimes parents don't give their child. And it's not due to conscious negligence, but rather a misunderstanding that food is only calories. A lot of parents don't understand good nutrition, and just like our previous two speakers ago were saying, this is because there's a lot of confusing messages out there. And if for a typical parent, if you're overstressed, overwhelmed, and I'm raising my hand, yes, Isla, Mom, yeah. If you're raising your hand, you're overstressed, you're overwhelmed, typical parent like that, you're probably thinking, well, I need to feed my child. Whew, my job is done for this meal. This is a myth, unfortunately. We need to understand, and I want to start by saying that eating is different than nourishing. You can eat a donut and a piece of pizza and you've ate, because you've taken in calories, but you haven't nourished. I do a weekly TV segment every month, and I never follow scripts, and I'm already not following my script, so I apologize for that. All right, that was the secret gift. I had a clicker somewhere. Would you know where it went by chance? You know what? Don't worry about it. I'll just flip through. This is fine. Now, another way to look at this, and this was already briefly said a few speakers ago, is you can look at food as fuel. And that's a great theme. You have high-octane fuel, you have low-octane fuel, and some engines require certain kinds of fuel. So if you think of your body as requiring high-octane fuel, and you put low-octane fuel in there, it's not going to work very efficiently. And unfortunately, it's not going to work very efficiently starting at a very young age, and it's going to start to break down from the inside out. Now again, eating, you may be eating, but you're not nourishing. Eating keeps you alive, whereas nourishing helps you to develop to being the best that you can be and so that you can thrive. And this is why I say that nourishment is one of a secret gift that you could give your kids that any parent can do. Doesn't matter where you're from or what you have or don't have. So ask yourself, do you have a nourishing plan for your child? I want you to hear this one more time, that eating is different than nourishing. I need you to understand this. Now, good nourishment is critical for a child's body and mind to develop and grow. And it's really fascinating because 60% of a child receives his or her nourishment, that nourishment that they get, that 60% of that goes to brain development. In the first year of life, 60% goes to brain development. That's pretty profound. So building your brain, the brain development is a lifelong endeavor. And there are certainly critical periods when nutrition has the most influence over brain development. And I just mentioned this. Now, specifically, starting at mid-gestation, which is about 5 months of pregnancy, to 2 years of age. The research shows that kids that don't have the proper nourishment have smaller brains, lower IQs, they tend to struggle academically, and have poor school performance. So this isn't just some, oh, this would be a nice thing to do. This is a big deal. So we understand, and we hear this a lot of times about kids being malnourished, and maybe we think of this in a third world country standpoint. You know, traditionally it means you don't get enough calories or protein, and thus you're malnourished. Well, in today's world, in our developed country, we can have adequate calories and still be malnourished because we're lacking the food. We're lacking, real food, whole foods that are found in nature. So fruits and vegetables, lean meats, dairy, that kind of thing, which contain the calcium, the magnesium, the folate, the vitamin C, the DHA, and DHA is the fatty material that your brain is made out of. Fake foods, processed foods, bagged foods, those sort of things are certainly full of added sugars, bad fats, and excess preservatives like sodium, but they have very few nutrients. Now take for a specific example here with calcium and bone health. Did you realize that that childhood is one of the most critical periods when kids are developing bone health? And you probably hear this through various marketing campaigns, and honestly, it doesn't matter where that calcium comes from, but the reality is the bone mass gained in childhood has a direct impact, in childhood and in young adulthood has a direct impact as an older adult. There's a saying that osteoporosis is a pediatric disease with geriatric consequences. So that is a big deal. So certainly providing calcium-rich foods can help build healthy bone deposits that will help your child be safe and developed as they should for their whole lifespan. Now, nourishing can help prevent chronic diseases. We know this. We've heard about this, and you probably had some speakers talk about this. But did you know that approximately 17% of adolescents ages 2 to 19 are considered overweight and obese? Some of the strongest risk factors, nearly all chronic diseases, heart disease, diabetes, and even certain cancers are connected to this. That is seriously messed up, folks. Because of high obesity rates, today's generation of kids statistically are going to have a shorter life expectancy than their parents. And this will be a first in the U.S. history, and this is not something that we want to be proud about. And as we know, because of the other health-related problems due to obesity, this shaves an average of 5 years off a child's life. Not all calories are created equal. We know this, we talk about this, we get a lot of messages about this, and you can have 500 calories of nourishing food like we see up there on the left, and a child is going to grow big and strong and healthy and have the type of brain development that they need. Or they could have 500 calories of candy and soda and, unfortunately, a lot of the commonly found foods available for kids. And they're going to grow, but just not in the direction that we want. You could have the most naturally gifted child, and if they're not getting a good breakfast, they're at such a disadvantage, and that's what the research says. If they're not getting breakfast, they're not able to focus, they're not able to just be on their game to be able to get the best grades they can be. Now, conversely, let's say your child has challenges, and they're already struggling with trying to maintain the grades that they need to excel in school. If they're not getting the right types of foods, they're not going to even be able to focus, and maybe that'll affect their behavior. So no matter talents or challenges that a child is born with, nourishing will help realize their full potential and help them thrive both in and out of the classroom. So let's talk a little bit more, just drill it down a little bit more about why nourishing is such a critical component to a child. The first 5 years, and this is my daughter if you didn't figure that out yet. The first 5 years, as I said, is critical to the child's mental and physical development. So what that means is what you eat or don't eat can be hardwired with you for the rest of your life. By age 20, the body has determined food preferences. And the crazy thing about this, ladies and gentlemen, that most of this hardwiring has occurred by age 5. Think about that. And most of it's in place by age 12. So nourishing starts with me, the parent, with you, the parents, with the caregivers. Whenever possible, teach your children to try new things when it comes to food. And food is a fantastic opportunity to start this process. I think it's important to understand the food climate. This is our food climate, and I got to tell you, I live in a bubble because we cook for our family. We don't do this kind of stuff, and so when I was pulling up pictures, I was kind of stunned, and I had to remember that this is kind of the current paradigm. And obviously, I care about this, and I don't want to sound like I don't want to judge about it, but it's pretty crazy. This is beautiful, beautiful marketing, and in fact, the food and beverage industry spends over $2 billion a year on marketing to our kids. Now, I'm not saying that food companies have a hidden agenda. You decide that for yourself. But we need to understand the situation and why this matters so much. Fast food companies spend, on average, $5 million a day marketing their products to us, our kids. And kids, on average, watch 10 ads a day about convenience foods, these kinds of foods. That's 4,000 advertisements a year. Most food advertisements, about 98%, promote high sugar, high fat, bad fats, and sodium-rich foods. And most of them, about 78%, are low in fiber. Oh, this is pretty fascinating, folks. And you know what? The food companies they've got it down and they're getting their money's worth, because it does work. Then the data says that nearly 40% of children's diets in the U.S. comes from added sugars and unhealthy fats, whereas only 21% of kids from 6 to 19, they're eating the recommended 5 servings of vegetables and fruits a day. The research also says that kids that are exposed to food-related ads tend to eat 45% more than those children that are not exposed to those food-related ads. So the food companies have really done their homework to maximize their revenues, and they're obviously doing a great job. But there's an expense to this. Now, in the first year of life, most kids have a nourishing diet because it's either from breast milk or from formula. However, and this is my 5.5-month-old, this is Azra. However, it's starting by age 1 when there are some disturbing trends. Sugar and sodium intake increased dramatically. Studies are showing that about 70% of the packaged foods that are marketed to children, 70% of those foods have added sugar, excess sodium, and bad fats in them. And these, unfortunately, are either provided by us, the parents, or other caregivers or schools. Both of these items that I've mentioned that are in these kids' foods are addictive, and they are facilitating the hard wiring of our kids to want those and crave them for the rest of their life. Now, almost all commercially prepared cereals have way too much added sugar. Children's cereal, on average, have 40% higher sugar than adult cereals. And it's kind of interesting. You can see here, this is a list of commonly found cereals in many people's homes that by weight have more than 40% sugar by weight. I mean, seriously, s'mores for breakfast, I mean, that's kind of crazy, but just saying here. So, all right, so hopefully I've convinced you why this is a big deal. Hopefully you're starting to go, yeah, you know what, there's a difference between eating and nourishing, and I want to have a nourishing plan for my child, and how do you do that? This is important. First step is to gain knowledge. And I always emphasize, whether it's on TV or doing presentations or trainings, whatever I'm doing, it's all about baby steps. So we live in this world of extremes where you're going from Coca-Colas to kale shakes, and that's not realistic. So let's just take it in baby steps. But we got to know, what is the ideal diet for a growing child? And it's not as simple as it seems for the reasons that we've shared and that you've heard from others as well. But most parents, we know that we want to be providing fruits and vegetables for our kids, but then beyond that, it really is confusing. So I'm going to simplify a couple things as to which foods you really should focus on for your kids. The number one thing you can do is structure a diet that revolves around real food. What is real food? It's foods found in nature, not in industry. You can eat an apple, pick it off the tree. Maybe not right now, I get that, but you get my point. So it's produce, it's dairy products that have required minimal processing to get from the farm to the table. And lean proteins can be like that as well. When you shop the perimeter of the store, you can find all of these foods that support a nourishing strategy. Real foods, as a result, are going to have one or two ingredients, maybe no ingredients, minimal packaging. The second thing that you want to focus on is variety. When you have a variety and you're considering this for your child, exposing them to a variety of foods, you're also exposing them to a variety of vitamins, minerals, nutrients, and good fats. And the only way that you can accomplish this is with different vibrant colors and textures of things to offer. And the chances are, the more colorful vegetables and fruits that are being offered and colorful foods, the more nutrients they're going to contain. You're not the only one that might be thinking, oops, what happened here? Excuse me. Well, I skipped the thing. This is important. Sorry. This is a slide I want to just mention that you want to make sure you want to have complex carbohydrates, which are fruits and vegetables and whole grains. You want to have lean proteins, lean meats, beans, legumes, that kind of thing. And then healthy fats, as I said, avocados, plant-based fats, walnuts, seeds, olive oils, that kind of stuff. That is what you want to be having to help your nourishing plan. Now, I might lost my little thunder on my big sandwich here, but maybe your child wants to have a grilled cheese sandwich every day. Try to get beyond and see the bigger picture of providing a variety of foods for them and provide it multiple times. And ultimately, what's so mind-blowing is whatever you do or don't do, you're influencing your child. So when I look at, and I'm saying this to you, but I'm pointing three fingers at myself, I can be a good example by eating a variety of foods to my child. But we'll talk more about how to do that in a little bit. Now, healthy fats are critical. I've touched on this, but let's get a little more in depth. Up until age 2, it is not recommended to have a low-fat diet for your child. Healthy fats found in avocados, seeds, healthy oils, nut butters, things like that, as we said. That, and especially fatty fish, cold water fish like salmon, those are all going to help build the brain. And it's kind of mind-blowing when 2/3, if you know, 2/3 of your brain is made up of fat. So the child needs to have that fat to develop to their full potential. Now, if your toddler is starting to lean towards obesity, then maybe you cut back a little bit on the full-fat dairy. However, I would suggest that you look at what else they're eating, look at the processed foods and the added sugar foods and that kind of thing, because odds are that's contributing to it and not the real healthy brain-developing fat items. So don't pull those out of their diet if you can help it. So now that you have a basic idea of what to feed your child, you're wondering, how do I do it? How do you get them to eat those nutritious foods? I totally understand that, and as a parent, it's not an easy task. 9 out of 10 times I get it pushed away, but then usually they come around. So as adults, we know what we should be eating, but doing and saying are not that simple. So I'm going to give you some tips, and I've learned this through all of my handful of years here working in schools and watching kids on how they eat and don't eat, and being a parent myself and feeding my child. So hopefully these will be helpful for you. For starters, and you probably already figured this out, but you need to start very, very early. It starts when mom is pregnant. There is a saying, we are what we eat. And that saying really could be, we are what our mothers ate. Now this might sound a little unfair, but this research shows the link with maternal nutrition and the long-term health of babies. There's several studies that are showing taste preferences that can form in the womb, which is kind of mind-blowing. So when mothers are eating the right foods and providing, and then they're producing their babies, those babies are more likely to accept the foods that were in the womb. Whereas on the other side is if a pregnant mom is eating heavily processed convenience foods, junk food stuff, their baby's more apt to want to have those once they're able to eat solid foods. And this isn't just some fringe study. These are becoming more commonplace that they're learning. Now, if you've been with a pregnant woman, you're not saying they can't eat certain foods. There's supposed to be a chuckle there. Maybe I got to work on that delivery, but I never say don't eat that, but moms need to understand the role that they're playing in helping their child develop, and so they need to make sure they're getting the right calories, vitamins, the minerals. It's important. It's incredibly important. The second thing you need to think about is simply believing that your child can eat these foods. Yeah, we know the saying, if you believe it, you can achieve it. Well, it's the truth. Too often, I see parents, and I talk to parents who say they have picky eater kids. That label, all it does is put those children in a downward spiral because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. What happens is if I think my child's a picky eater, I start to not offer different things for them to try. And so they just get used to going down this one path. And if you remember, hardwiring starts at conception, and by age 5, a lot of it's been done. This is really, really challenging. Now, you got to understand, too, is that kids are picky at ages 2 and 3. I understand that. I get it. But it's more about exerting their ability to make decisions, not the decision itself. And by age 3 and 4, they've moved on, and their taste buds have evolved. They've changed. But if we're not giving them things, and we think they're picky eaters, so we're just giving them this one thing, well, their taste buds are going to go with that. So parents, please don't look at your kids as a picky eater. Because oftentimes we're the picky eater, and then we perpetuate that onto the kids. Yes, it might take 10 or more exposures of a food for a child to get comfortable. That's just a reality. Another thing that we don't help ourselves with is by calling something healthy. Healthy doesn't sell to kids, and it doesn't sell to adults. Food is food. Food should taste good. Healthy food can taste good if it's prepared correctly. In France, moms tell their kids, eat your green beans, they're really good. In the U.S., moms tell their kids, eat your green beans, they're really good for you. Which green beans do you want to eat? It's a whole different dynamic when you spin it that way. Now, you can use healthy in a soft way up until about age 10, but then afterwards, you're closing more doors than you're opening. So keep that in mind. Another thing that you can work on, family meals. And I understand that in today's world, we have so many extracurriculars, we have so many after-school activities. This is a hard sell. This is a hard sell, but it's important, and there's a handful of reasons why. Children that are eating family meals at least 3, 4, 5 times a week, they're more apt to have whole foods, real foods, fruits and veggies, the essential micro and macronutrients, and fewer fried foods and soft drinks. Besides just with little kids, with young adults or with teens and young people, if they are exposed to that, they're more apt to be eating real foods once they get out on their own. And it goes, besides the nutritional benefits, dinner time conversation can actually help boost their vocabulary. It can help with academic success. They've had studies showing with children who ate 5 to 7 meals a week with their family that they were actually scoring higher on tests, more likely to get A's versus kids that were not doing this. And family dinners and meals can also help build relationships and communication. So this is huge. Now, there's a couple caveats. When you have meals together, TV's got to be off. I say no phone zone at our table. No electronic devices. And mom or dad, whoever's cooking, is not making 5 meals for 5 people. They're not making 5 different meals for 5 different people. That's not the game. It doesn't work that way. When everyone's eating the same thing and when everybody's together, not watching TV or looking at their phones, we can actually incorporate mindful eating, and we'll eat what we need rather than just eating out of habit and because our minds are not turned on. So keep that in mind, folks. Another thing that you can do is you can be a food detective. You can be a food advocate. Starting at age 1, when your child is 1 year old, start reading the labels very diligently. You might think there's a nourishing food out there that has been marketed such as, but you'll find that it could have a lot of extra sugar and unnecessary chemicals in it. Again, cereals, granola bars, a lot of the commercial yogurts out there have way too much added sugar and things that aren't going to benefit your child from a nourishment plan point of view. Another thing you want to think about is if your child is in daycare. If your kids if you have a child care provider, what is their food philosophy? And do you support their food philosophy? And if they don't have the right food philosophy, then support them in fixing it, because the millennial parents, today's generation of parents, they really demand this to be the case. Now, they may not actively think about it quite yet because we got a lot going on. But start thinking about it, because your providers want to serve you and want your kids to thrive. And fish sticks and French fries do not constitute a balanced meal. Also, at schools, there's a lot of hoopla about school nutrition. And sometimes, just like in childcare, it can be an afterthought, and sometimes it's not an afterthought. If you don't like the food philosophy that your school has for your kids, bring your own lunch. And with enough parents, because there's strength in numbers, with enough parents that bring their own lunches, the school board will start to change policies, and that's a fact. All right, that's all fine and dandy, Chef, but what if I did not have I didn't eat that great when I was pregnant, or my child is well beyond that 5 years of age when this whole plan is absolutely critical? Well, am I doomed? No, of course not. Doing something is better than doing nothing at all, and it's never too late to start. Now, it's not going to be easy, folks, but I have some additional tips, so let's get into it. For starters, let your child decide. Go to the farmer's market, go to the grocery store, and you might be thinking, I don't have time for that. Get someone else to take them then, I don't care. But if you get them involved in the process, they can narrow down some options that they can pick. Kids want choice, so maybe at dinner, instead of just serving carrots with everything else, you're doing carrots and peas, and let them pick. But give them a choice in it. Cook with your child, and it may not be the easiest thing to do, but cook with your child because it'll give them a sense of choice. And when they feel part of the process, study shows that kids are more apt to want to prepare those foods that they're being involved with, especially when they're nourishing foods that we're advocating. You could certainly learn new ways to introduce foods, to show them, having different cuts and roasting your vegetables instead of just steaming or eating them raw or whatever. Certainly theming your meals during the week to create some excitement, and offering good choices when they're hungry, because if they're hungry enough and it's right in front of them, they're going to probably eat it, and certainly adding them to existing favorites, whether it's smoothies, adding a little bit of spinach or avocado, or it's mashed potatoes, you could split it with a little half potato, half cauliflower. So how can you incorporate these things? Absolutely, what you can also do is be a role model. Walk the walk. Children do what they see, not what they hear. And they're going to pick up on your attitudes. So if I like something, great. If I don't like something, that's okay, but I don't say it. I don't say it's a bad thing. I would just pretend, and we say, here, let's try this. And at the same time, you don't want to restrict treats. Celebrations can have celebration foods. And there's studies out there that we know now from listening that kids that are severely restricted from foods can actually develop some major challenges with food. So we don't want to restrict things, but we need to be mindful on that. And absolutely thinking baby steps. Think baby steps, folks. Remember, this is a lifelong endeavor, and it doesn't happen overnight most of the time. You can go low sugar to no sugar. Take your pre-sweetened yogurt, buy plain yogurt, add some fruits and some honey, and do that. And what happens is your taste buds will start to open up. You'll start to taste the food that you're providing your kids, and your kids might even go at some point, wow, that was even too sweet, if they've tried something that their taste buds were not used to eating it because they've been off of that. For example, if you're doing pizza night Make it from scratch at home rather than buy it pre-made because you can get your kids involved. Again, I can't emphasize it enough, folks. Take it in baby steps. And this would certainly be a great opportunity to get your kids involved. The gift of nourishment is one of the greatest gifts that you can give your child. It is a gift that allows their mind and their body to grow and develop to its full capacity. It is a gift that minimizes or prevents future burdens like obesity and diabetes. And it is a gift that will stay with your child for the rest of their life. So whatever age your child is, you should start giving this gift, and you should start doing it today. Thank you.